All right. Live. I see the little red box in the upper right, left-hand corner, whatever corner it is. That means we're live. We're going live with another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for speakers, right? With myself, Jeff Klubeck, and co-author Sue Mathieson. Sue, all the way from down under in Melbourne. Take it away. Get us into this week's session. Go for it.
Thank you, Jeff. Really good to see you. And happy Friday for you. Happy Saturday for me. So let's get into it. As you said, we're in section 2, bring out your brand. This week is tip 14, fourth tip in this particular section, but we started back with our first tip being don't be a spectator. And what we were considering there was that whether we are proactive or not, people are going to make the brand and decide for themselves what that's going to be. So far better that we are proactive in terms of creating our brand. And that was the focus there. And then with tip 2 in this section, we looked at brand versus branding. Noting that brand is the message, so it's our promise to the marketplace, whereas branding are the actions that we take to put that brand message out into the marketplace. So
that's right,
two very distinct actions.
Aside from the obvious that one is a noun and the other is a verb, right? The importance are bigger than that. Yeah, I remember when we went over, that was 2 weeks ago we covered that. Continue. Awesome.
True. And then tip 3 is where we've started to do a deep dive into the formula of our brand equals MP divided by our Ps multiplied by our CAs minus J plus S.
Wow, that's a mouthful, Sue.
What is all that? It is a mouthful. What is all that? And last week we did a deep dive into MP, which is the marketplace. And it covers the market segments that I as a speaker, you as a speaker, Jeff, can talk to as a result of our individual life experiences and our professional or business experiences. And I gave some examples of what that might be for me. And if you have the book, please read through what some of those examples were that I gave. Today, we're going to lead into the P's of that equation. So what counts as a promise? And I'm now going to read word for word as I was coming in from reflecting from the previous tip. Here we go. In the previous tip, I was confident about doing the research into my market segments, but I have to admit, I'm a little nervous about the idea of a promise. I mean, a promise feels like pressure on myself, an obligation of sorts. Do I really want that? Is simply having an intention enough, or am I missing something? So, Jeff, what counts as a promise?
Well, let me start by saying that intentions are not enough, especially when it comes to marketing ourselves as speakers. That said, let me share my take on the ingredients of a promise. Parentheses, there's a parenthetical reference here as we're reading word for word out of the actual book here. Attention gaining, sensational, and keepable. ASK. It's easy to remember that way. So here we go. First, your promise needs to be attention gaining. When something is attention gaining, it tends to arouse a quick and intense interest, curiosity, or emotional reaction. It could be something clever, entertaining, eye-popping, unexpected, or any number of creative and or harmless things that grab attention depending on one's interests, values, and experiences, etc. What is most important to consider, in my opinion, however, Sue, is pleasure and pain. These are the key drivers of our behavior and emotional connections from your audience, right? When you understand the psychological and emotional needs of your audience, you can develop your brand promise so it addresses the pain and pleasure in their lives.
Can we explore pain points a little more, please?
As a matter of fact, we can, Sue. Here we go. Continuing reading word for word now in tip number 14. When we are able to articulate the pain points of our audience, we build empathy with them. Pain points represent the problems, challenges, or frustrations that our audience is experiencing in their lives. These may be unmet needs, inconveniences, unsolved problems. A brand promise that can address these pain points promises to alleviate the issues being faced by the audience. The brand promise then becomes a solution to the problem. By acknowledging and addressing the pain points, the brand promise builds a strong emotional connection with the audience because they feel appreciation that their struggles are being understood and cared about. Now for the flip side, pleasure. There are positive emotions, desires, aspirations that the audience is seeking. They may include joy, happiness, convenience, luxury, and satisfaction. A brand promise that can deliver pleasure gives the audience confidence that engaging with the brand will provide them with satisfying and enjoyable experiences. Pleasure points are often associated with the brand's unique value proposition and the emotional benefits associated with that. When a brand consistently delivers pleasurable experiences, it becomes a favorite for its audiences.
Interesting. Is it necessary to focus specifically on pain or pleasure in a brand promise?
A successful brand promise will find a balance between addressing the pain points and delivering pleasure. This positions the brand as a solution that not only solves problems, but also enhances the overall well-being of an audience. Let me sidebar here real quick, Sue. I may address it later on in the word for word, but it's a pet peeve of mine that most marketing, most sales, most etc. focuses on pain. Find the wound, wound, pain. I'm a big advocate, and I don't know if it's going to come through as we're reading word for word here, but let me just pause long enough to say I'm a big fan of bringing these things into balance, pleasure and pain, right? We don't want to, as business owners, we don't want to just wait until the pain comes around for us to solve it. We want people to invest in their pleasure as well before it's too late, on and on and on. I'm sorry for digressing there. Let me get back to reading word for word. Let's take one look at the Integrity Games brand promises. Quote, to make accountability non-threatening, non-quote. Is that attention gaining? If so, what makes it attention gaining? In 4 words, to make accountability non-threatening. In 4 words, I'm addressing all the negativity that people normally associate with accountability and opening them up to the possibility of it being worthwhile. We inherently know that when there's a lack of accountability, no one knows who is responsible for what. There's confusion, timelines don't get met, and the blame game develops. Accountability drives productivity, and by removing the fear, people are going to be curious as to what I do that makes it non-threatening. And it's important to note that I'm achieving this by only using 4 words that make my promise clear, very easy to understand. There is no room for ambiguity or complexity.
I'm getting the hang of crafting the language around my brand promise. Is there anything else that needs attention when considering what counts as a promise?
All right. I have a feeling, seeing how this is written, we're transitioning into the next tip, but let's finish the word for word here. So, ladies and gentlemen out there in the viewing audience, as we stream this to our platforms, let me continue reading word for word. Sue asked another great question, and the answer is one of my favorite parts of creating a brand promise. The second thing you want your promise to be is sensational. This is part of what could make the promise attention gaining, as we are referring to the size or the magnitude of the promise. By sensational, I mean the biggest promise I can possibly make, ... And yeah, you hear it before I say it, so I'll say it now, that I know I can keep. Right? And oh, wow, we got a little bit more on this tip to go. So I'll say it again. By sensational, I mean the biggest promise I could possibly make, and you can hear it before I say it, so I'll say it now, that I know I can keep. So that's transitioning us into this third point. Good. All right. So the third ingredient for a good brand promise is that the promise is something you know you can keep. But as Sue said, it may be that focusing first on the keeping part might make you so nervous. So try focusing first on the attention gaining part as a speaker. Bullet points. Here we go. What pain do you get your clients' audiences out of? Second bullet point. What pleasure do you get your clients' audiences closer to as a speaker? Third bullet point. What are the greatest examples of delivering these results that you know you can replicate?
Thank you. This tip is awesome. Knowing the pain that I can get clients out of, then the pleasure that I am able to draw them toward comes out of my learnings, experiences, and knowledge. From that perspective, that is a promise I know I can keep.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the tip. Yeah. Oh no. We got one more.
A little bit more.
Oh geez. Wow, this tip just keeps on giving and giving and giving. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience, as we live stream this out, whether you're with us live or watching a recording and smiling along with us on a jovial Friday, let me tell you that Sue went on to make a very good point. Quote, when my focus shifts from a legal understanding of my ability to keep a promise to a promotional understanding of what counts as a promise in the first place, I find myself more focused on what my audience or clients need, and it's much easier to see my ability to provide it. Excellent, Sue. So when I start my thinking with the pressure to keep a promise, my fear of failure has me looking past the needs of the audience and the client. It's a subtle but powerful shift and incredibly insightful. So thank you for that interaction and that feedback. I got a bunch of things that I want to say that maybe that's why I kept on looking past the last paragraph that we needed to read. I wanted to bring up this visual real quick because I'm a visual person, and we're talking about these promises of, like what counts as a promise, right? And you can't make it any more simple. We're not coming on, board can you see my screen now, Sue?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So we're not coming on board every Friday to do rocket science. We're, we're putting the fun back in the fundamentals. The road to mastery is paved with fundamentals. Like we're going back to the basics, keeping it simple. So the elements of a promise, number one, we talked about attention gaining. Are you speaking to the pleasure that people seek or the pain they want to get away from? Then we talked about another ingredient of a promise being sensational, meaning the largest promise you could possibly make, but not just the largest promise you can possibly make, the largest promise you could possibly make that you can keep. ASK, right? Attention gaining, sensational, and keepable. And so these are the ingredients. What counts as a promise to the marketplace? And by the way, if I can make a list of all of the promises I could make to the marketplace, and that's what will divide my marketplace into market segments. So the list of 5 topics that I might give to an event organizer or a conference planner for the Society of Human Resources Management, it's going to be a completely different list of topics that I might give to the International Association of Chiropractors, because I know they're dealing with different problems. In some level, they seek the same pleasures, right? Everybody wants meaningful work with a great income, with a flexible life, on and on and on. But they're dealing with different pain points, etc., right? And there may be different paths, different channels to their pleasure points. But the idea is if I'm marketing myself as a speaker or a supporting coach at events where I'll have to speak or whatever I'm doing, I need to understand what my promises are that divide my marketplace into segments, so that of all the promises I could make, am I making the right promise at the right time? And so I wanted to create this visual for what counts as a promise. And now that we understand what counts as a promise, let's make as many promises as we can, or let's identify or discover all of the promises that we can legitimately make, right? And I love giving examples of promises, right? I was just thinking about what I was talking about, the chiropractors, right? And so one of the things that I've done in my career, Sue, as you know, is I've been a supporting coach and speaker, right? Content speaker, facilitator, right? Retreat facilitator, supporting coach, content speaker. That's a role I play, right? So what's a brand promise there? I promise I can increase the engagement, credibility, and revenue at your events.
Yes.
Did you say you went, because that landed and you're not even planning events and you heard it?
Yes.
Does that make sense? So if I'm talking to somebody that plans events, right? Like, and let me give a shout out, by the way, real quick, to like my big sister from another mister, Diane Forster, right? As soon as I learned what she was up to, I reached out to her and I said, you know what? I can, based on what you're telling me, I could probably, if you don't have anybody else in this role, especially right now, right? I can increase the credibility, the engagement, and the revenue at your event. And I made that promise. Now, legally, was I bound to, back that up? No, we had a contract. It's independent. It's an exchange of value. We took a chance on each other, but boy, did we both deliver for each other, right? And so it's wonderful. This is what I'm getting at as a speaker, right? I need to have command of my branding, right? So that if I'm going to promote, I don't get to speak at all unless I can communicate what my promise is and then back that on and on and on. I'm going to stop talking now for a second. I'm going to blow my nose and then see what you have to say.
Yeah, I think I've got a bit of hay fever or something this morning.
As soon as I got out of the car near my client's office, I started sneezing, but go ahead.
Yeah. We're in sync with each other.
It's funny.
There's a couple of things that come to mind. When you were just talking about from an event perspective and being able to be that clear in terms of what your promise is, and my reaction is because it was attractive. It's drawing me in to go, oh, hang on, this is someone that I really want to have as part of my event on my team. So there was that part of it.
Oh, and by the way, just let me let people know who the hell I am. The banner is up now. I'm Jeff Klubeck, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, definitely.
I always forget to put my own banner up. I just assume everybody knows who I am, but that's not true. Go ahead.
No, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You used the word timing, and what that prompted in my mind was really think from an audience perspective and as a speaker, thinking about where your audience might be on their journey. Now, it could be quite diverse, and so you need to be able to manage that. But at the same time, it could be quite specific. And therefore, in terms of your promise, it's also being conscious of how appropriate it is to, what is your promise? You don't want to be making something that's right at the start of people's journey, but they're way down the track.
Right.
Yeah, it was just I guess a qualification almost of expanding your view to be really conscious of that potential in terms of from a timing perspective.
Yeah, and to just both ways, right? I'm a big fan of both sides of the same coin, up and down, left and right. Unit dualities, everything is a combination of something and its opposite with an adhesive, right? Like conceptually, right? And so from a timing perspective, it's not just where is my audience, my prospect in their timeline, so that I can understand what's the right communication for that type of person at wherever they are. So we need to ask good questions, gather good information on and on, but also our own, right? Our own timeline as speakers. Right? I can tell you that, in this tip, right, one of the beautiful things about the tip that we just read, and by the way, what I'm doing real quick, everybody, is I'm inviting you to join the conversation, tinyurl.com/cluetip14. If you want to talk about branding, bring out your brand, the elements and dynamics, ingredients of a promise. If you want to ask us, hey, Jeff, I think I can promise this to the marketplace, or I could promise that. We'll do live coaching right here. Sue and I will do live coaching with you, and we'll have a conversation, whatever, right? No vulnerability, just joviality on a Friday, but you're invited to join the conversation, right? And what I want people to know, and coming back to dialogue with you, Sue, is one of the cool things about today's tip, what counts as a promise, is the 3 ingredients of a promise. That's the tip, right? Is, hey, if you're going to make promises to the marketplace, make sure your promises are built with these 3 ingredients, okay? That's on the surface. That's the value of the tip. But underneath it all, in our dialogue, what comes out in our dialogue is the timeline thing that you're talking about. Early on in my career, when I'm not as confident, I'm not as sure of myself, I don't have as much of a track record, it isn't as effortless and not as much muscle memory as I am in nearly 3rd decade of my career, right? I am going to be more worried, like, can I keep that promise? Can I really do it? Right? So the difference between the legal and the promotional understanding of making a promise to the marketplace, right? You follow, like, what we're trying to capture in this book is the mentoring, right? And so this is one of the things. I'm not just giving you the marketing tip, but I'm also helping you with the mindset part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a subtle gift in this tip, is shifting from, oh, can I market that? Can I say that? What if I can't back that up? That's what I would say to myself at a different part of my timeline than I'm at right now. What say you?
I really like that perspective of being conscious of.
I'm with you, Sue.
I guess what you're saying is when we're starting out, that difference between sort of the legal and what we can promise is probably small, but as you build that confidence, as you build that muscle memory, you've got the legal, but then you know that you can deliver so much more because you've built that experience. You've been able to show that you can make a promise and you deliver on it. You've got the credibility behind you, and that comes through experience, through years of showing up and speaking.
Well,
Am I correct?
the more experience you have, the more promises you're confident about making. Yeah. Right. The more experience you have making and delivering on promises. Yeah. Yes. And that's not really what I was getting at. Right. What I was actually getting at is like the simple thing, like here we go. Let me set it up this way. Right. The first section of our book, the very first section was playing the integrity game. So the first 10 tips were all about playing the integrity game. Okay. But this section that we're in right now, these 10 tips that we're in is as you introduced, is bring out your brand. We aren't in the legal section. We don't even have a legal section of the book. We don't have legal compliance contracts. There's nothing in our book that says this is how you set up your contract as a speaker. Here's how you get insurance as a speaker, or how you manage liabilities as a speaker. This is what you are able to. We're not talking about legal. We're talking about marketing. We're talking about building our careers as speakers and the fearless mindset we need to put messages out in the marketplace. So we shouldn't be thinking, can I deliver? Can I deliver? Now, the other thing I have to say about that, you follow, like, in other words, can I back that up? What if I don't back it up? We're not talking about promises from a contractual legal perspective. We're talking about promises from an attention gaining perspective, marketing perspective, promotional perspective, right? And so we want to attract people into conversations, and then we can draft a contract to protect ourselves legally after we've brought out our brand to attract prospects. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I agreed. We're not getting caught up in the legal. I guess I was taking that more from the mindset side of it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Falling into the trap of getting caught up in the legal side of it instead of. But that comes early when we're starting out, and I guess what we're saying here is, from a marketing perspective, is if we're playing the integrity game that we talked about in the first section, we're going to be able to trust ourselves a lot more too to deliver. And so the two sections really start to go hand in hand.
Well,
the more that we're...
Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead, Sue, I'm sorry.
No, I'm ready for you to jump in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, section one. Well, the thing is, section one doesn't stop. Integrity game doesn't stop at the 10 tips. We're always integrating. That's why it's foundational. We're always integrating. We're always bringing more in. What works, we'll bring that in. What doesn't work, leave that out, right? Playing the integrity game. But what we really want to celebrate, and I just back into my Friday mood, back into my jovial mood, right? We want to bring out the brand. Hey, carnival music. Hey, check it out. Step right up. Like Barnum and Bailey. I really want to be in the mood of like fearless, not carnival barker to promote snake oil sales, but the mindset of fearless promotion.
Yeah.
That's what we want, is a mindset of fearless promotion. Like, Sue, we got another 6 weeks of this section. We're going to be talking about marketing for 2.5 months. Oh, and speaking of which, because we're in section 2, bring out your brand, because we're in the middle of 2.5 months of talking about bring out your brand and marketing, the marketing team, Sue, can you believe it? The marketing team went ahead and created a funnel to a freebie in exchange for an email address. Isn't that crazy that a marketing team would do that?
Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So let me put this up here and offer everybody our free little branding guide when I find the right banner. Marketing team, help me. That's so funny. Here we go. Free report. Free BOYB. Bring out your brand. Free report. You go to the link, tinyurl.com/TIGBOYB, and give us your email address, and we'll give you a free report that'll lead all the way to a free strategy call if you want it, with either myself or Sue or an Integrity Game certified coach, somebody that can help you start to think about and imagine bringing out your brand. But everything that we're offering here, everything that we're talking about, right, totally free. We're committed to helping people. By the way, Sue, you're like, well, how do you make money on that? Like, I don't care about the money. Just the world needs better brands. I mean, there's a lot of crappy brand promises out there. There's a lot. Like, I see. Ever watch a commercial? You ever watch a commercial? You're watching that. You're like, first of all, I think I need a shower just after watching that thing. But second of all, there was somebody in a corporate boardroom that said, "Yeah, let's go with that idea." And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Who are they? I don't know. So the world needs better. The world needs better brands. The world needs better marketing communication. And wow, when we recognize branding done well, we notice, and we don't forget. Right?
It does.
So anyway, everybody's invited. I'm kicking it back over to you now so I can catch my breath. But we're talking about marketing. We're in the middle of 2.5 months of talking about marketing, and we want this free report to get out there to the world. Hopefully, it'll be helpful for you. You know, we know, Sue, as coaches, consultants, trainers, and speakers, not everybody that's tuning in right now to get some value from what we're doing is ready to like hire us or invest in a coaching package or, you know, retain us or what have you. So we want to have tons of free stuff that we can give to people that keep people in the game, keep people in the conversation, keep people imagining how they can be better, how they can improve. And when everybody's ready to take the next step forward, we'll be here and we'll be trusted and we'll be valuable and we'll be resourceful. But for now, we've got this free report for anybody that wants to trade us an email for the free report. And of course, it'll lead all the way to being able to book an actual branding strategy call, totally free, with myself or Sue or both of us, or, you know, put in the notes what you're looking for. We've got other certified coaches that can lead you through this process as well. But we're here, we're available. So what else, Sue, when it comes to bringing out our brand? As you mentioned, we talked last week about this equation. I think it's important to bring this up. The P in this equation is what we went deeper on today. Last week, we went a little bit deeper on NPs, right? The week before that, we were talking about what does the B, what's the difference between brand and branding. And last week we introduced the equation to go deeper on P's. And now today we're on promises. So guess what? Chances are next week we're going to be talking about the CA's part of all of this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just an observation that I made. When you were talking about bringing out our brand and your effervescence and your movement, and it's the movement that struck me. And what came to mind is, if we're going to apply the ask, so attention gaining, sensational, keepable, into our promise, the thought came to mind is if I'm crafting that, don't try doing it sitting down. Actually get up and move around.
Yeah.
What does this feel like if I'm going to apply that? And I just got the, I guess, sensation that if I'm up and moving around as I'm playing with thoughts around what my promise might be, I'm actually going to get a far better outcome because I've got that movement happening. I don't know, just interested to your reaction, your thoughts.
Well, you know, I'm smiling. I don't know if you saw me smiling ear to ear as soon as you brought up movement. And I don't want to put words into your mouth. And so let me know if I'm doing it. All right. But what I am going to tell you is words that I've heard from others. Right. And this, by the way, keep in mind the compliments that you get from other people, because when you get complimented genuinely from other people, it may not be the way that you see yourself. Somebody else may always see something in you that you're not thinking about.
True.
But if it comes from somebody else and they say, oh my God, Jeff, I really love the way you move when you talk.
Right.
Now, guess what? Now I got a brand promise. You will love the way I move when I talk. You will believe everything out of my mouth because I'm so in sync, non-verbally and verbally. I'll have
Yes.
credibility, fidelity, my passion, my dynamism, my energy. So as a speaker, I know I can promise these things. You just complimented me on the movement, right? And so I've been complimented before several times on this thing. Your hands, right. And one of my best friends, shout out to Tony DeFranco, who is a college floor mate of mine. We lived in the same floor in the dorms. That first year of college, you go through stuff together,
Okay.
lifelong friendships.
Right.
But as adults later on in our life, he introduced me to so much music and so much about music. And I was always, in admiration because I could never play. I never got an instrument and never bought a drum set or anything like that. And so I lived vicariously through other musicians. And my steering wheel, I've been like breaking my fingers all my life on my steering wheel, playing the drums on the steering wheel. And I sat with him a couple of years back, and I said, Tony, man, you're such a great musician. And he's like, well, you are too. I said, what? He's like, nobody talks the way you do. It's music. It's rhythm, it's sound, it's vibration, it's pace, it's tempo, it's variation, it's overture. So when one of my best friends on the planet, who is a musician, told me something, a way I'd never see myself. Now I got to believe him.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so now I know myself to be a musician, a composer. I'm orchestrating my communication. I'm conducting communication. It's artful. It's fascinating. It's thought-provoking. It's all the things that communication can be, but it would be none of those things if I didn't believe in what I was doing, if I wasn't totally integrated. Right. Yes. And as much command as I have over it, when we're reading word for word, we get, our movement gets stunted. This beautiful piece that we're talking about right now, it gets stunted by the word for word, because I was in a different mood when I wrote it than when I'm reading it. And, writing it for a reader is different than speaking it to an audience. So you'll see how I kind of bob and weave, and when I'll interject and pause from the word for word and then I'll look in the camera instead of, it's fun. Anyway, yeah. So nonverbal communication is always more honest and believable than verbal communication. But when the two are in sync, integrated, when your nonverbal and your verbal are integrated, now that's magnetic. That's attention gaining. That's sensational. That's on and on and on. So thank you for commenting on that. And then the last thing I would say in response to that comment is, stand up and say it out loud. All speakers need to stand up, move around, and say what you're going to say. Practice moving your mouth around your promise. How does it sound? Because everything that sounds good in our head, it sounds a little different when it comes out. So test it. Move. Don't just create the visual aid, but get up on your feet and put the visual aid on your screen in your living room. And where will you stand when the visual aid comes up? Practice not looking at it, because when it comes up and you turn your back to the audience, no, don't do that. You know it's up there. You know what it says. Stay front face. We want to practice all the physicality of speaking, but that's down the road. We're going to cover that later on.
Yes. That's way down the road.
so what, just to put it into a context, section 1, the first 10 tips, we're playing the integrity game, and now we're in section 2, bring out your brand. So with a foundation of really knowing who I am on this planet, and some other questions the integrity game asks us to answer. Now, what's my promises? What's all my brand and branding that I could put out to the planet? Now I'm ready to start constructing speeches. So in section 3, starting 7 weeks from now, we're going to talk about being fearless about getting to work, constructing your keynotes, constructing your lunch and learn talks, constructing your talks, your segments, your modules, your curricularizing your content into compelling speeches. And we're going to get into, of the 10 tips in this section, 8 of them are an 8-step process to being fearless. So we'll introduce with 2 tips, and then the remaining 8 tips will be an 8-step process. Now, one of those steps is so important that we gave it its own section. We go way deeper diving, Kluba diving, if you don't mind me saying so. On step 5 of the 8-step process is section 4, elements, forms, and functions of step 5. It's that important. And it's outlining the speech, outlining the talk, really breaking it down into components, right? Same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. That's the same way you draft an outline, elements, forms, functions, one line at a time. So you've got all this flexibility that we're going to be talking about later on, which helps us then get up and stand and practice, right? So what we're talking about moving,
Yeah.
you don't just think about your speech and then go up and talk. You better get on your feet and move around and have a lot of practice communicating and moving around what you want to say. And then we're going to finish the book, of course, at the end of the year, the last 3 months. Wow. Can you do that? 12 weeks, 12 tips, last 3 months of the year. We're going to be talking about practice building. If you like speaking so much that you want to build a practice out of it, well, then there's other things than just being a speaker that you're going to want to pay attention to. And we're going to reveal those at the end of the year. It's an ability, an income earning hobby, a curiosity, and then it becomes a practice. And well, do you want to build a business out of this? Do you want to build a practice out of this? Or you use speaking to build your career? Or are you going to build a career around speaking? We got 12 accountabilities that we need to point out to you. And not all of them involve the actual talking part, right? So that's one of the things that, a lot of people want to be the speaker. A lot of people want to be on stage. A lot of people want the lights, the camera, the pictures, the line of people waiting for them when you come off stage. A lot of people want that, right?
Yes.
But do you want the marketing? Do you want the operations? Do you want the finance? Do you want the customer service? Do you want the facilities management? Do you want the accounts payable, the accounts receivable, the compliance? Do you want all that? Well, let's talk about it at the end of the year. But for now, we're still in Bring Out Your Brand. 6 more weeks to go, and we're offering everybody a free guide, the BOYB guide, Bring Out Your Brand. If you just go to tinyurl.com/TIG, that's for the integrity game, TIGBOYB. We'll give you the freebie if you give us your email address, right? Full transparency. We want to market to you. We want to bring out our brand with you, to you, for you. And we want, more than anything else, bring out your brand and get better brands and better promises and better expectation setting in this world. Yeah, you got it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. What else, Sue?
I love the value that we've been able to bring today.
Yeah. With all the sniffling and nose blowing as we get into in Southern California, we get into springtime and all these different pollens are coming out into the air. We still manage to be valuable. And, I don't care if nobody watches. Like, I love hanging out with you every week. I love communicating with you around what we wrote together. It's so much more enriching to have this dialogue around what we wrote together, because so much is like I would write by myself and you would write by yourself and we'd come together and discuss. But now we're bringing out the tips, and it's just a whole new level of content that we're creating, like a transcription of these recordings that we're making every day would actually be a better book than the book.
So true.
Yeah. So
I do think that. I'm like, we need to
it's
transcript and even almost republish.
Yeah, so it's a promise.
But I love it.
To keep it on brand, a promise I can make to the marketplace, right? A promise I'm pretty comfortable making to the marketplace is that I can help you curricularize your subject matter expertise. I can help you create and repurpose endless amounts of content. Really? You can? Right? And I know that there's pleasure on the end of having endless amounts of content. There's pleasure on the other end of having my expertise curricularized. What an interesting promise to make to the marketplace, right? So I just think this way all the time. This is the lens through which I view the world. So let's get into last call. What do you think? Go ahead, Sue. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, as we do come into last call, I did want to quickly pick up on that, focusing on the pleasure that because you mentioned it as we first started chatting, that you made the comment that so much of the marketing that is out there focuses on the pain.
Yeah.
And it's very much, you would love to see, you're very passionate about focusing more on the pleasure. And what I did like about that was the forward thinking of it, by focusing on that, we're helping people avoid the pain and keeping them out of that pain. And I really liked that, I guess, emphasis that you were, just for me anyway, putting on what are we putting, what's the promise that we're putting into the marketplace, and maybe not just automatically going to the pain side of it, but putting a little bit more effort into that pleasure, so that we're almost getting ahead of where people might be and helping them to avoid those issues. Yeah, I just appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm appreciating that, because now we got 3 different layers of value in this tip, right? At least, right? And back to the timing piece, if we read this tip again 2 months ago or 2 months from now, we'd get something else out of it based on where we're at. So, that's wonderful. But forward thinking, bring promises of pleasure into balance with promises of pain. But know your audience. Some people are going to be more motivated away from pain. Other people are going to be more motivated towards pleasure. If you come to me, pain, I don't even want to listen. I don't want to talk about it. Right? You talk to me about, wouldn't it be great if? And I'm like, what? Tell me what? What would be great? So if you know your audience and those segments of your audience and know behavioral styles and all these other things that we talk about and we do. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into. I'm going to do this. Sue, a little birdie told me that you're going to be stateside in the summer. Is that right?
That is very true. I'm looking forward to it. I've got 9 weeks. I think 9 weeks I'll be landing in LA.
And I think you're going to saunter your way down to San Diego for at least one of those days. Yeah?
It is on my radar.
Well, everybody save the date. June 25th in San Diego. Bring out your brand with Jeff Klubeck and Sue Mathieson. That is right. We don't have all the details worked out yet, but it'll be a dynamic networking, workshopable, value-based, the epicenter of the professional content will be bring out your branding workshop, calibrate your brand, talk to us about your brand, develop your brand. We'll introduce some concepts from the book. We'll facilitate a conversation. I might bring other guest speakers in that have brand case studies to go over with us. But really, we want everybody to get together, have a fun night of networking and picture taking, and maybe there'll be some videos, and everybody will get to market themselves, get headshots, get a little video, drop a testimonial, network schmooze. This is what we have in mind, but save the date. We don't have all the details worked out yet, but save the date if you want to hang out with Sue and I on June 25th. And bring out your brand and whatever else we can bring out. Bring out the bubbly, bring out the beverage of your choice. Bring out the beverage of your choice. Bring out your brand. We'll figure it out. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be valuable. And nothing I do, if it's not fun and if it's not helping somebody else, I'm not interested. So save the date, June 25th, when Sue is in town all the way from down under, and we'll figure out.
I didn't realize you had a banner for it, so that's amazing.
I didn't have a banner for it. I created it. I just said, you know what? I don't have the event. I don't care. We'll create the event, but we've got the date in mind. Save the date, June 25th. Bring out your brand with Jeff Klubeck and Sue Mathieson. And until then, right, leading up to that, if you want to learn more about what we have to share with you about branding, of course, we already talked to you about this free branding report that you could get at tinyurl.com/TIGBOYB. And then, of course, we want everybody to save the date for June 25th. If you want to see us live in person, hang out, get a signed copy of the book, ask us questions about your brand, participate in panel style facilitation discussion. We don't have it all figured out yet, but we'll get it figured out. We want to see you. If you're not on vacation, if you're not in a different part of the world, if you're in San Diego and your kids aren't out of school yet, or your vacation hasn't hit yet, you still want to stay professional even though it's the summertime, come on down to San Diego downtown. We'll give you more details. Will emerge over the next couple of weeks. I'm starting to put all of the pieces in place, but save the date. Now, having said all of that, it's time. It is time, Sue, for last call. So last call for comments, questions, jokes, riddles, haikus, limericks, or expressions of gratitude.
Been a really fun session. And lots has come to mind for me. And I have, as I usually do, been writing my own notes as you come out with all these wonderful gems of ideas, comments, insights. So lots of fun. And as always, thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to deviate from the vibe of last call by screen sharing, but I'm going to. This is kind of like counterintuitive to the vibe of last call, is to get into screen share and show some content. But when you said I'm taking notes, as I always do, like we co-authored the book together, and in these conversations, new stuff comes out. What I want people to see here is at the end of this section, we've made it a little bit actionable, right? We don't want you to just read a book. We want you to break out a pen, take notes, and start writing stuff down. So we know that right here is brand. We know that right here is marketplace. We know that we've got promises, and as we'll talk about in the coming weeks, competitive advantages, and we got rid of the jargon and add the slogan. And so now you can start to get all the jumble out of your head and start to get a clear bird's eye view of the ingredients of your branding, right? So we've got prompts to bring out the brand. We're offering 2 complimentary coaching sessions to anybody that hasn't had them already. So it's up to 2, then it's up to you, or it's up to 2, then you really need to get a clue, right? Anyway, that's besides the point. The point that I'm making right here is it's not hard, but we wanted to make the book workable. We want to make it actionable. We're challenging you to apply some of these things. And what is your brand? What is branding? So what are the ingredients of your messaging, and how do you plan on getting that message out to the marketplace? So we've got prompts for you to make this actionable, and we want you interacting. We want you moving the wrist. We want you bringing out your brand. And so in the coming weeks, of course, we'll talk about what we're getting at here and so forth. So I just wanted to make sure that you're not the only one taking notes, Sue, although you are leading by example, because we want everybody who gets the book to take notes and bring out their brand, right? We want the world to have better speakers. Vipul, shout out to Vipul Dial. I saw a thing on LinkedIn this morning where AHOA, the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, had a picture of him at the front of a podium hosting and moderating a panel, right? And I don't think he would be upset with me saying so, but it's like, look, when leaders that really want to do a great job, right, before taking the big stage, right, I love when they call me first. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love speaking. I want to be the speaker, but I'm as or more happy when I prepare somebody to take a big stage. And so, shout out to my good friend and client and the guy that serial go-giver himself, Vipul Dial, is doing so much in the world. And congrats to the constituents of AHOA when you got that kind of leadership who invested himself, who will call a coach and say, hey, I want to make sure I do a really good job. And so anyway, all of that's really wonderful. What else, Sue? Last call.
Nothing else from me today. As I said, just a lot of fun, a lot of value, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
All right. Well, you are Sue Mathieson, co-author and certified integrity game coach. I am Jeffrey Klubeck, founder and author of The Integrity Game. And this has been Get a Clue in 52 for Speakers with Sue. And I just want to say thank you as always, Sue. And I'm sure we'll talk in between, but definitely we'll see you next week for tip number 15.
Lovely.
All right. Go get them.
Thank you.
All right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.